Hey guys, it's Gwen. Welcome back to my channel, Home to Inspire DIY and Decor. Today, I will be sharing my fourth video of the fall series for 2022, and I have some simple DIY projects for you today. I hope you enjoy. For project number one, I am using mostly Dollar Tree supplies as well as supplies that I've had on hand. Some things might have came from Walmart, Michael's, Amazon, just things that I've had in my stash. So first off, I'm taking one of these round wood plaques from the Dollar Tree, and I'm gonna go ahead and paint it with some Moss Waverly chalk paint, just giving it a good full coverage. Next, I took some of these orange leaves that were in my stash for many years. I believe they came from Michael's. It's for scrapbooking, but I wanted to use it up once and for all. So I decided to just lay out the way I sort of envisioned this wall decor to be. So as you can see, I just sort of dry fit it onto the wood plaque or wood round, just to see how I wanted the layout to be. And before actually gluing it or attaching it to the wood round, I just went ahead and moved on to the next step. And that step would be to do my stenciling using this mesh stencil that came from Michael's. It was on clearance at the time that I purchased it. And it's just a stencil that spells out the word home. And it also came with the words welcome to our. So I went ahead and used up both of those parts of the stencil. So with this type of stencil, it's the mesh screen stencil, and you would have to use the cream paste with this type of stencil. So I went ahead and used some black cream paste, also from Michael's, and just rub that over the stencil. While that part dried, I went ahead and took some of my half wood rounds that came from Amazon, and these are the larger sizes. I don't have the exact measurement, but you can see it here in the video. I took some of the Waverly Antique Wax and went ahead and brushed those on to those half wood beads or half wood rounds, and then just rubbed it over with a wipe. I went on to the next step, which was to glue down the leaves in the way that I wanted it to look. So I just randomly used hot glue to glue down the pieces of the orange leaves in a fashion that was pleasing to my eyes. So this is definitely something that you can customize for your own preferences. So you don't necessarily have to use as many leaves as I did. You can use less or you can use more. It's really up to you. This is just for inspiration. So while I finished up gluing all of the wood, or I'm sorry, all of the leaves to the wood plaque, I went ahead and glued some of the sunflowers that came from Dollar Tree, and these were also in my stash from a while back. So I went ahead and started gluing those in between the leaves, and I also glued down the half wood beads in between the leaves. So I just sort of eyeballed everything, no exact measurements, no rhyme or reason. I just wanted to alternate the pattern, so to speak. So I wanted to have a wood round, then a sunflower, and then the orange leaves, and so on and so forth. So I just kept repeating that according to my own preference. So after that part was done, I took some of these Dollartree rub-on transfers. It's the fall leaves, and I bought these last year. I didn't find them till the end of fall, so I saved them for this year. I do believe they have them this year though, so if you're lucky enough, you may be able to find it still at your stores. But I just used these up again for my stash, and I just picked the leaves and the colors that I wanted to use and just randomly placed them throughout the wood round, just sort of filling in any empty spots that I didn't want to leave empty or blank. I felt like without it, it just felt too empty and too plain for my own taste. But if you don't like your decor to be too busy or too overkill, then you could probably stop at just leaving the leaves on the outer sides, outer corners, and the sunflowers, and not necessarily having to add these transfers. But for my own taste, I wanted something to fill in those empty spots. So I went ahead and just haphazardly rubbed on those transfers in between the letters, in all of those green areas that you see that is blank. And then I took this wood pumpkin cutout that came from Target, again maybe a year or two ago from the Target dollar spot, and it was just left over, so I went ahead and used that for my O to complete the word home. So rather than writing in or stenciling in the O, I just went ahead and replaced that, which I think it adds a lot of cuteness and charm to this piece. Project number 2 is going to be a simple and quick DIY. I'm simply using a wood pallet from Daiso, a calendar from the Dollar Tree, a glue stick, a variety of paints. In this case, I'm using the DIY paint in the color Cake Batter. And I'm going to go ahead and paint over this wood palette using that Cake Batter color. I've also pre-cut strips of a calendar page in this design with the pumpkins. So I measured out the size of each of the wood slats, and I just cut the pieces of the calendar to fit the size. Once the paint was dry, I took my glue stick and I just used that to glue down the pieces of the calendar to this wood palette. Initially, I was going to use the full calendar to cover the entire surface. However, I decided against it, and I chose to keep the top wood slat blank, and I had a different idea for that. I also used a brayer to help lay down the pieces of the paper more smoothly, which really helps a lot. Next, I took this Grateful faux leather word cutout that came from Dollar Tree this year, and I just used hot glue to glue that at an angle at that very top wood slat. I also used a crochet ribbon from the Dollar Tree as well as a small sunflower embellishment, and I made a simple bow and glued that down to the opposite side of where the Grateful word was attached. And then I glued the sunflower on top of that ribbon. I then decided to use this metal ribbon or metal trim that came from Dollar Tree. And again, I just measured the width of the pallet wood, and I cut the piece of the metal trim to size. And using Gorilla Glue, I went ahead and glued that over the gap at the bottom to cover that space, just to add a little interest and decor to that bottom portion. And I repeated that same step, taking another piece of that wire ribbon and just gluing it to the next empty gap. And since this is going to be a pumpkin, I decided to use a piece of wood, a wood stem from the Dollar Tree, and I glued that on top of the wood palette, giving it that pumpkin look. I also took Hobby Lobby's leaves and cut a few pieces of the leaves from that bunch and hot glued it beside the stem. For project 3, I am going to be making some pumpkins using those mini wood pallets from the Dollar Tree. I'm also using 2 pieces of scrap wood blocks that I had on hand from a previous trip to the thrift store. So in order to make these pumpkins more bulky, I used the wood blocks as the background and the wood pallets at the front. So these are more of a chunky pumpkin style. So first off, I took some Waverly chalk paint in the color celery, and I painted one of the mini wood pallets in this color. I also painted the wood block in the same color just to match it so it would be uniform. I then took the color Summer Crush by DIY paint, and I painted the second wood block as well as the mini wood palette in that color. I also took an extra piece of the wood block as my base for the pumpkin, for one of the pumpkins to stand on, so that they would be different heights. And I just painted that in the antique Waverly wax. And I forgot to mention, I did paint some mini pumpkins from the Dollar Tree. They were sort of in this yellowish off-white color, but I wanted it to look more white, more of a brighter white. So I used plaster chalk paint by Waverly, and I just painted 2 of those mini pumpkins. Just using a piece of wire, I did attach the 2 pumpkins on top of each other and added a little hot glue to the middle to just keep it secure. When all the paint was dry and all the pieces, I went ahead and assembled them so that they would attach and adhere to each other. So essentially, I needed to glue the wood palette to the wood block, one for each color. So I just took some hot glue and I glued the mini wood palette on top of the chunky wood block, one in the Summer Crush and the other in the celery color. And when those pieces were attached to each other, I then went ahead and glued the orange colored pumpkin over top of that extra wood block in that antique color. Next, I decided to add some cork. It's a wine bottle cork that I use as my stems, and I just use hot glue to attach those to each of the pumpkins. I also use some rub-on transfers from the Dollartree, and this is in the fall pack. Some are leaves, some have pumpkins on it. So I just chose the designs that I wanted and just rubbed those in different parts of the pumpkins. Next, I took some sunflower embellishments that came in a pack from the Dollar Tree, and I used one right next to the stem of the green pumpkin, and then I went ahead and glued those pumpkin stacks right next to the orange pumpkin, and took one of those sunflowers and glued it right next to those mini pumpkin stacks. So now these are coordinating pieces. They both have the sunflowers on them, but you can definitely use these separately. I think these pumpkins came out super cute and adorable, and they were so simple to make. Hardly took any time at all, and super budget friendly. They would make really cute tiered tray decorations or shelf sitters. They would even look cute in your kitchen. Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you guys think of this DIY. Now we're on to project number 4, and this is the last project of this video. Now this last DIY is very quick and easy to make. I basically took one of those chunky wood blocks that I used in the previous project. I gave it a good coat of plaster chalk paint, and I used some napkins in fall designs. Now I think these napkins came from the Dollar Tree, and I wanted it to the image to stand out pretty well, so that's the reason why I painted the wood in the plaster color. This little wood block sign is two-sided. So one side I used pumpkin napkins, and on the other side I used like a foliage with butterfly napkins. The foliage napkins came from, I believe, TJ Maxx or Marshalls, but the pumpkin napkins came from the Dollar Tree, I'm pretty sure. So basically you want to remove the second ply of the napkins, and you just want to be left with the single ply, which is just the first layer of the napkin. I took some Mod Podge and I laid down a thin coat over the dried wood surface. And I just tried my best to smooth out any bubbles or any wrinkling, but you will get wrinkling, it's inevitable. So don't be too hard on yourself if this doesn't come out perfect, because that's just how it goes when you're using Mod Podge for the most part. So that does it for today's DIYs. I hope you got some fall inspiration. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to my channel. I do a lot of Dollar Tree DIYs, budget home decor, thrift hauls and thrift flips, and shopping hauls. So if you enjoy that type of content, I encourage you to hit that subscribe button. Please leave me a comment also. Let me know what you thought of all these projects. And like and share my videos. It really helps my channel to grow when you do those little things. And if you are new to my channel, I thank you so much for clicking on this video, and I hope that you will come back for the next one. Until next time, thank you for watching, and have a great day.